education.
did 2 years ago at the request of the board and the LAA, it was requested that we do away with continuing education, and we prepared legislation to allow us to do so at the request of the board following the resolution from both entities. And it passed through the legislature and the governor signed it into law. And to go back and ask the governor to change something that he signed, sometimes it's pretty hard. You know, he's already made a decision and signed it into an act at the request of using those resolutions from the LAA and the Auctioneer licensing board. And under this administration, I think it would almost be a fruitless effort to try to go back and change something that we already set up in all 2 years. You know, that's my opinion.
But you've got 2 years left, right?
About a year and a half. 2 years. You're home running, you know.
What, and Johnny, I appreciate what you did on that behalf. We weren't on, I wasn't on the board, a few others wasn't on the board. The board's kind of changed since then, and we've had some reevaluation of this issue and working with Wiley and the Louisiana Auctioneer Association. They're basically, continuing education is a requirement in a lot of other states. And if you go to get a reciprocal license, sometimes you need that continuing education. I've seen the governor on a couple of other instances change his mind on different things. I think Common Core maybe come to mind. Or he was one way.
Well, you gotta realize that's politically motivated.
Well, he was one way and he was another after he looked at it for a while. I don't want to associate us with Common Core, but I can tell you that after kind of evaluation and some discussion with the board that's here now and with our association, it's changed. And I think we could visit with the governor on that behalf and let him know that the majority of the auctioneers out there would like to have continuing education. It does a number of things. It keeps us in touch as auctioneers with what's going on in the auctioneer world. We start learning names and faces. I think that's a value to us also. And it's just good to have that continuing education because you can learn from both mistakes that people have made as well as information they may have by learning it through not making mistakes. But continuing education was something this board had talked about along with the association. I think we would, with your help, maybe like to try to push that through. Of course, between some of the legislatures and senators that we know, I think maybe we could explain to the governor that we'd like him to unsign that and maybe re-sign another bill sponsored by this board. That's my opinion. And I maybe that's some
I do have an opinion. As you know, my auction business is limited to the sale of real property. Unlike some of the other members of the board, I don't do fine arts. I think you have to have a specialty for that, which I don't have. And the Louisiana Real Estate Commission and the Mississippi Real Estate Commission, because I'm licensed in 2 states, requires that we take continuing education every year. So as in my field, I'm up on, I believe, everything that I need to do in my particular field. So there are a lot of other people who are duly licensed as I am. And what I'm wondering is, if we go back to continuing education, those of us who are duly licensed, for instance, if we have, if we're brokers or whatever, can we get some type of credit for those courses that we've taken through the Louisiana Real Estate Commission?
Wiley then did this, everybody was real concerned up there about the old format that was used was really not beneficial for the auctioneers the way it was done. My understanding, the LAA is assigned a committee to study this, and they're going to study all several other states with it. And with that, I wish Wiley would make whatever comment he's going to make.
There was one other comment that I wanted to make, if I may. Considering the economic situation of many auctioneers, which may not be good, and you know that, sitting on this board, where some of them really go from one session to another. if we're going to reinstitute the continuing education, then I think that a lot of these programs should be sponsored free of charge by the commission, so that people don't have to come up and pay a fee to take the courses. I wouldn't mind teaching several of the courses within my knowledge for free and donating my time on some of that. But I think some people just can't afford to pay for continuing education.
In the past, we did have year 4. I'm sorry, that was before I was here.
There's no charge for
No
it.
charge, right. There's no charge. If you didn't attend those, you couldn't make it to one of those, then you have to pay.
Right, yeah,
Right.
but I mean, I think that there should be a special consideration for people.
Well, you're looking at two different organizations, the Louisiana Auctioneers Licensing Board and the Louisiana Auctioneers Association is two separate entities. This board is set up to protect the general public from unscrupulous auctioneering activities. LAA is a supportive group.
That actually go.
They don't
into the
have
field
any
of-
ties to
exactly.
this board.
Right, exactly. I agree.
You know,
But
other than.
most of the infractions that we see on this board are intentional infractions or something that people should know better, like not keeping proper accounting, et cetera. And I really don't think that you're gonna learn that necessarily in a continuing education. We were all licensed auctioneers. I think everybody knows how to do an auction.
Well, and then you have such a wide array of auctioneers. You have
Right.
cattle auctioneers that aren't even required to have a
Right,
license.
exactly.
And then you have automobile auctioneers that go work a contractual basis once a week. Yeah, they strictly miss college. They don't need continuing education to do that.
Sandy, when I die, I want you to auction my stuff off.
Tessa?
You do it. Tessa, yeah. Because like Tessa.
That's as good, see?
Well, she's extremely qualified for what she does in her particular field.
Well, everybody gets a niche in the
Yeah, right.
auction industry. I mean, you create a niche, and that's how you make your money in this business. It's a good business to be in, but it's, you know, in Louisiana, we just don't have as many auctions here as we ought to have. The auction method of marketing is not properly promoted, right, because there aren't enough auctions. I mean, it's just a service that you provide to people that, it's a necessary service, because somebody's always has assets that they need to convert to cash, and that's what we do as an auctioneer, is convert assets into cash. But continuing education, in a sense, it's good, and in another sense, you know, I'm smart enough to know that I have to hire accountants.
Right, and keep records.
And,
Right.
yeah.
And a lot of people, the infractions that we see on the board, that's
Well-
mainly the problems that we have here.
Well-
I would be very interested to see what the Louisiana Association of Auctioneers, what they come up with.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I think that,
Yeah,
you know, that
right, I belong to that organization, you know, I'm
Yeah,
very
but,
interested in what they might have to say.
Yeah.
Well, let's let Wiley talk now, go back to our discussion.
Thank you, I appreciate y'all's time. I'm gonna be brief. It's in the early stages. Like James had said, we had a meeting, and we had the best attendance we've had in a long time. We had over 40 registered licensed auctioneers, about 70 to 80 people in the crowd. Every auctioneer there was in favor, but we're talking about 47, I think there's close to 300 licensed auctioneers. But before I present this, or we present this to the rest of the auctioneers, we want it mapped out exactly what they're voting on. We don't want to just throw it in their face that we want continuing education again. Going back to the basics, we were gonna, and we have formed a committee of 5. It's Gary Bussell from Lake Charles, Ken Brookhouse from Captain, Wendy Doyle from Elliott, and Marvin and Penny Muntz, who are Hall of Fame members. And we're gonna have a meeting within the next 30 days. Johnny, I was right there front and center with you when we were fighting to disband it. We're wrong. Since I was elected president last year, I'm now in my second year, was re-elected, that the people I see come before this board, it's a lot of basics, and they're not crooks, like I told everybody at the convention, they're just uneducated. And I think just them, common sense would tell them not to do it. But if they don't think they're being monitored in any way, you know, of course, and Al is not pleading ignorance, But I think if they know they're monitored, it will help. Now, I need to get with the board about the specifics of it. What we're proposing is 6 hours per year. You can take it at the convention at no charge. We're gonna offer it online also. And that would be a minimal fee. I think, I've researched some of, like Texas and South Carolina, they charge anywhere from $25 to $35. And you
It's
take-
actually more than that, because I usually couldn't make the sessions when they had, and I have to go online.
that's what they had posted on their websites here
It's
this,
more than that, I know, I paid more than that.
here this week. And like I said, we wanna work with y'all in 30 days. We'd like to present y'all. It doesn't have to be at this meeting. Maybe we can personally email it to y'all and let y'all critique it and look at it. We do want qualified instructors and qualified classes. The main thing we want to achieve here too is to where our standards are going to be strict enough to where it'll be reciprocal easy to other states. I think Texas, I hold the license there, it's one of the strictest ones. But we don't want to just offer it to where if I'm licensed in several states, to where I don't have to do that, to where you take your Louisiana and it is reciprocated because the requirements have been met. Like I said, as far as monitoring goes, the LAA does not mind monitoring it, doing the instructors, the whole work, and then submitting the documented paperwork to the board, because they have to come to y'all to get their license renewed or reinstated, whatever the B&B. But that way it proves that it is signed off by the LAA. If y'all want to have a representative involved in that end of it too, we don't mind it at all. Like I said, we're going to offer a course at the convention for free to the LAA members. There'll be a thing online. I don't know if the board had the funds or the means or wanted to offer another course themselves. That way they have 2 live choices and online. Now one thing, and not naming any names, but back when they did it online, we're going to have to monitor that, because some people would turn their computer on and go do whatever they wanted to do and then come back.
When I did it online, I always had to take a test.
Right. They do give
If I
a word, you
know,
gotta type in.
didn't go that, I mean, I wouldn't fail the test. I would fail the
Yeah, to
test.
prove you there, but we want to do that, I mean, and we want to give them, it's hard to sit in front of a computer for 6 hours with that type of deal, that we give them a time frame. Once they do enter that course, it could go on for 3 days, a week, that'll have to be determined. Like I said, we're throwing things around. My main thing, I want to make y'all aware that we are pushing for it, and that we have formed a committee with some pretty experienced people, and we'll be talking back and forth, and that we did, like I said, we want the opinion of all auctioneers, not just who was there at the LAA that time. So we're not trying to shove this down anybody's throat at all. That's about all I've got to say right here. Oh, I did want to, can I go off course just 1 second? We did induct 3 people into the Hall of Fame this year. It was Harry Hunt, Larry Nobles, who sat on this board for years, and then Miss Barbara Monette. And then today we have Mr. Daniel Wynn with us, Johnny's son, that is the state champion this year in the auction championship. Thank y'all.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody have any questions for me, or Daniel, stand up.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
I do have a question
Yeah,
for you, really. Actually, you know, what you said about getting some kind of feel, the LAA, if they're gonna poll the auctioneers by way of a letter or however you do this, really, because on behalf of the board, we've already passed it through the legislature. Now, this is kind of embarrassing when you try to go back after you receive resolutions from both the entities.
That's correct, but can we form some kind of professional letter along with it that we were wrong, we admit we're wrong? It's just something, we're looking, you know, I was at the NAA convention this past week in Louisville, Kentucky, and I mentioned we're fighting for continuing education. They were all in agreement, you need to do that. You kind of not look down on it, but you're looking a lot less unprofessional by not offering it, Johnny.
You're gonna have to sit down with your governor and say that he made a mistake signing the law.
Wow. We can
I mean,
word
this
it a
is
little,
politics.
we'll word it a little kinder than that.
It's, well, it's, you know, we went to him and asked him to do this.
Yeah, you fought feverishly for it, and I
That's
remember
right.
that. I lost a good buddy on the Capitol steps during this fight.
That's right.
I will never
Okay,
forget.
there was a lot of people that supported doing it.
Mhm.
We really had a lot of people calling and writing and everything else in reference to this one to get. Because most of the auctioneers, really, if you look at the auction businesses throughout the state of Louisiana, you really don't have that many.
Not active.
Well, it's all about money. And we're in the auction business because people want to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you pursue your profession and get the right deal, it's beneficial as an auction company and an auctioneer to pursue this profession.
That's correct, and a lot of
It
this
has
is
a
their-
lot of
this is their
opportunity.
retirement, and they're trusting us to get the most for their money too.
They don't trust
But
you. They
more they're
want you to
asking.
work for cheap.
Well, they do that, but I mean, it's still.
I
your
mean,
duty
the
to get
trust
everything you
factor
can
in
get
the
out of it.
auction business is non-existent. It's all dollars and cents. You can't ever sell for a seller and get enough money, and every buyer's gonna pay too much.
What about, and I'm just throwing this out to the board, whether or not taking these continuing education courses could be voluntary, and you would get a special designation if you take some of the others. What if you-
Continuing education is very, very important for those who pursue the auction business as a career. I mean, you have an obligation to educate yourself so you can stay on the competitive edge of your competition.
Very good.
But as a licensing board, you know, I don't want to see this board create a money grab from auctioneers or the license, LAA, create just a money grab. And what benefits does it offer the auctioneer?
How do you think, with that in your letter, how would your 47 auctioneers feel like, if they all want to take it, that would offer, like you said, maybe four
Get a special
classes per
designation.
year, but it's
Right.
a volunteer.
right.
It's, you're going a
That-
volunteer
that-
basis, all of you want to go, all these people that want to go are welcome to go. And there's 4 classes that we can, offer, and you're gonna offer a free class, and they can attend that. And perhaps the board will have to look into it with the budget and so forth, we can put on, check out how the attendance works out. Put on 2 or 3 a year.
Yeah, because your auction business owners are the ones that actually need to continue in education. You know, as laws change in the legislature on the state level and federal level and everything else, you know, firearms, selling guns, I mean, you got all kinds of regulations that we have to comply with. But, you know, those are laws that are enacted by the legislature, they're not enacted by the board. I mean, the board's main function is to protect the rights of the citizens of the state of Louisiana and to keep unscrupulous activities going on in the auction profession. You know, I think it's a good idea. Continuing education always is good. I'm a proponent of education and, you know, really in the auction industry, we got such a small handful of groups of people in the state of Louisiana that, you know, we need to communicate with each other and try to make sure that you set something up that future generations may benefit by. But, you know, it's like you said, it's gonna take some study to do that. You're gonna really have to, poll all the auctioneers, because you have so many different situations, as I said earlier. With the cattle auctioneer, it's not even required to have a license. Probably some of the finest auctioneers in the auction industry when you really watch them work.
That's right.
But the cattle sale barn is bomb.
Mostly on the sanitary board, John.
Hal keeps raising his hand, everybody keeps jumping in.
Oh,
No, Hal, go ahead, you have the floor.
Well, I just had a couple things to kind of counterpoint. I feel like continuing education would be something that we need in this state if we can have the availability to get it. I can tell you, I'm looking at a reciprocal license in Texas. I've got an auction I'm going to be doing in North Carolina, and they all have continuing ed. And I would rather be able to get it right here in my state, and it be as valid as anything done in any other state. So it's something that we did away with, and I was early on in my auction career when we did away with it. I thought, hey, wow, it's 6 hours less I have to worry about doing something. But as I've gotten more active in the auctioneer business, to interface with different auctioneers, to get the opportunity to be educated about things, that new laws and changes, and we see that up here at this board. I think, Johnny, that it would take a while to get this through. There would have to be a timeline, and working with the LAA, working with you, get it to your next time y'all meet in Baton Rouge. Next session. So we're still a long ways off. This is the
Right.
infant stages of what we're doing, but it's something that we really need to start thinking about how to move this forward. And I think there's a lot of auctioneers out there that are maybe contract auctioneers, benefit auctioneers like what I do, would like to have the opportunity to have continuing education. And really, if I wasn't on this board, I wouldn't be able to interface with a lot of the guys that I know here. I have this opportunity to have it out there. It's not going to cost us anything. This board has enough money in it right now that we can help supply that money to
Never
fuel
say
this
that
effort.
lightly, the governor will come take your money.
Yeah.
We understand. And I would rather spend it on that.
And that's what I'm at, the association,
And I agree with that 100%, that if they realize that we have a pretty good reserve of money in here, that we need to utilize that for auctioneers. How do we better auctioneers? To me, we take that reserve, and through continuing education, we better our profession. That's the bottom line.
Let me ask you, do you have a problem with doing it on a voluntary basis?
I think that's something we could put on the questionnaire. I think it,
But I mean, you would want to take it so you can get your
that's,
reciprocal, so this way you would have the opportunity, you really want to take it in Louisiana, so that you would have that opportunity to take it in Louisiana.
Or if you have to take it on
And that way-
the states.
Right.
yeah, I wouldn't really have any heartburn if people really are anti against it, but I think it's something that we maybe start volunteering. If we see it's really working and it's something we need to get everybody to comply with, even if we have to mandate it, it might be something we look at in the future. Like I say, we're in the early stages of conversation on this matter right now.
But I think that's something the board can look into offering, is just continuing education that all these auctioneers who would like it can have the opportunity to take here. And we don't need legislation, is that correct? To do that?
No.
We can just do it. So
You
we don't
should,
need that.
right. In my opinion, the proper way to do it would just be, send out a questionnaire. You got, how many auctioneers in the state of Louisiana are licensed?
right.
Who live in the state of Louisiana is
Who are
over
there?
200.
Over 200? Well, you want to get their opinions also. If we could do a questionnaire type deal and get their opinion, then you want to hear their feedback.
Right, and how many people would attend?
Or if they like it or not. Because if it's the same consensus as last time, I hate to tell you this, but you dead in the water with as much opposition.
believe
as
that.
they had it.
I
Because,
remember last time.
you know,
How much I was-
freelance auctioneers would probably amounts to 80% of the auctioneering in the state of Louisiana, I would think, huh, Jeff? Most of you freelance auctioneers that work for Mannheim, or they work for ABC, or work for all these different auto industries, of course, that's the biggest industry in the state, they roll more money than anybody.
That's right.
When you put them all together, but they're all just contract auctioneers, and that auction facility is responsible for the actions of the auctioneer. Auction businesses themselves, you know, such as yours and, people that own their own business, you're responsible for the acts of your auctioneers and yourself as an auction business. That's why you have two separate licenses. I mean, you can either go in and get an auctioneer's license, in which we have given business license if you're a licensed auctioneer, that you could just be in the business and you didn't have to have that separate application. I mean,
We encourage everyone to have two, but
well, if you're in the auction business, you know, you may look at that too. As a business owner, the main thing, just like we said earlier, the board itself is responsible for unscrupulous activities of auctioneers. You gotta monitor the auction, monitor the auctioneers. You know, as history shows, that anybody paid on commission usually does pretty good things to be able to get the commission fees broken back up to everybody. And as long as it's not unscrupulous, it's just part of sales. But, you know, there's been cases in Louisiana where old people have been ripped off for $30,000, $50,000, $70,000 by unscrupulous auctioneers that quickly grabbed that money and hit the road. And
right.
that's the board's responsibility is to try to implement that. Whether licensing or continuing education or whatever the case may be, that's the main function of the board right there. As y'all well know, Anna's been through the trenches with this a few times.
Do you have any other comments?
No, no.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Anyone else have anything else? Okay, well, thank you so much for.
But I'd definitely like working with y'all, and it's kind of a pleasure being in the legislature, having been on this board at one time and representing auctioneers. We've got a wonderful industry that we represent, and you know what, the world out there for you to sell is just, when somebody needs the cash, they will check some out.
It's all going video. It's all going internet and video. In all states. That's the coming trend.
Yeah, before it's over with, I don't know if we'll be able to sell anything without the internet.
That's it.
The gas prices keep going up, they won't make it to the auction, they want to do it online.
It's going that direction.
Well, again, thank you so much.
All right, well, thank y'all, and
Thank
good
you,
luck
sir.
to you, and, you know, just continue working on it and try to, we'll come up with something eventually to, you know, help the auction industry out. That's what we need to do, promote more auctions, and we
Absolutely.
have more auctions. We don't have enough. I don't
Well,
know where do we rank in the United States as far as the amount of auctions conducted?
That's a
28.
good
I
question.
think we're around 28.
I think California's first, Florida second, Texas third.
Oklahoma, Montana, Iowa, Missouri.
Well, we will keep you informed on that.
28.
While I appreciate you taking the time.
All right, well, good enough.
Thank you, sir.
All right, good luck to y'all too. All right.